Hello everybody, my name is Ray. Welcome to the Evangelical Dark Web. Today we will be talking about the SBC, the Southern Baptist Convention, unveiling a new woke task force committee, and that task force is the Abuse Reform Implementation Task Force. So this is a new committee that's being formed by the Southern Baptist Convention for a temporary basis to respond to the Sex Abuse Task Force report that came out prior to the Southern Baptist Convention of 2022. And Bart Barber's first major action as president of the Southern Baptist Convention was nominating this committee. So we have 9 names to discuss in this video today, but it seems like the internet has jumped on the Todd Benkirk bandwagon, but I gotta tell you, I don't think Todd Benkirk's the worst person on this list. I mean, he's really bad, don't get me wrong, but it's arguable. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So this is a task force set up to steward Southern Baptist resources to sex abuse victims, and I use that in quotes because some of the people that the Southern Baptist Convention has compensated are not exactly what the general society would call victims. That the chief example being Jennifer Lyell, who had an ongoing sexual relationship with another SBC staffer who is lower in stature, by the way, for upwards of 12 years. This was retconned as an unconsensual relationship, the result of grooming, despite the fact that she was 26 years old when this relationship began. So there is no credibility with the SBC on this issue because they're letting Rachel Den Hollander dictate who gets paid based on who her clients are. That's what's going on within the SBC. No one wants to stand up to feminism. That's, I'm not a Southern Baptist, but here we are. We're going to break down the Southern Baptist Convention and all its liberalism today. So we get a press release by the Baptist Press, includes the following: study best practices. These are the task of the RIFT, I guess is what they're calling themselves. Study best practices in keeping with Southern Baptist Church polity for feasibility and report back to the 2023 annual meeting on reforms which could be adopted by the convention as well as how they should be implemented. Such recommendations include a survivor care fund memorial, auditing the Caring Well curriculum, and possibly creating a permanent committee or entity. Assist SBC entities in creating guidepost recommendations and advise on implementing reforms relevant to each entity's ministry assignments. So this could actually impact the NDA statuses and usage of the seminaries, as well as NAM and the International Mission Board. So that's interesting. Be a resource in abuse prevention, crisis response, and survivor care. They don't use Oxford commas over at the Baptist Press. To Baptist bodies who voluntarily seek assistance. This includes providing a list of recommended independent qualified firms for training and inquiries and assisting state conventions with recommendations upon request. This is qualified firms, doesn't include guideposts, does it? Don't know. Consult with the SBC Credentials Committee for revising the evaluation and submission process to include complaints of non-cooperation due to sexual abuse and publish the revisions. Work with the Executive Committee and Credentials Committee to select an independent qualified firm or firms to best assist the Credentials Committee by providing factual findings for complaints of non-cooperation due to sex abuse. The RIFT will report back to the 2023 annual meeting on the selection. So again, this is the first major decision unveiled by Bart Barber, and we got 9 names to discuss. Marshall Blalock is the first of the names. He's the chairman of this committee, pastor of FBC Charleston, South Carolina, and he is pretty woke. So we got a nice tweet by him to really shine on the wokeness here. As someone who appreciates having a larger family of churches to do together what we can never accomplish apart, I am deeply saddened when family members feel pushed out by unkindness and attendant complicity. We are greatly diminished without Beth Moore and Charlie Dates, two extremely woke people. I mean, Charlie Dates is like a social justice gospel pastor. That's what he is. Beth Moore is a feminist infiltrator of the church. So, complete Jezebel there. So that's Marshall Blalock. He is the chair of this committee. Not a good sign. That's like one vote for any woke decision. Vice chair of the committee is Mike Keabone, the Native American pastor who seems to be ardently advocating of Resolution 4 at the SBC convention. This one had to do with bringing up past abuses towards Native Americans, a very niche one at that. I'm not sure why his pet project got recommended by the committee and not like reforms against plagiarism or actual pro-life resolutions, but nonetheless, Mike Keabone was the, I guess he's part of the representation, and then he obviously wanted to calm down the celebration of Roe v. Wade. That's what else we were able to find. And we have this gem by him defending Ed Litton, and how Ed Litton, like one of the highlights, and I mean highlights in that the conservatives at the convention had very few good moments. The good moments were them trolling Ed Litton on the stage, and Ed Litton he was not having a fun time. Just getting trolled on the plagiarism issue, and Mike Keabone came out simping for Ed Litton. It does pay to simp for Ed Litton. It certainly paid for Bart Barber to simp for Ed Litton. Mike Keabone gets a bone thrown his way because simping ain't easy in the Southern Baptist Convention, but it is necessary. Todd Benkirk is a writer over at SBC Voices, a very trash liberal blog. Todd Benkirk was involved in Karen Gate, and you can just look at Tom Buck's Twitter feed for that. Todd Benkirk is getting the laser focus in the reaction to this committee. He's getting the laser focus and the lion's share, and I just think that's unfair. Because, as we saw with the first two names, a lot of issues there. Todd Benkirk is a flagrantly wrong person to put on here because of his treatment of Tom and Jennifer Buck. So this was just an insult to those people. And again, if you want to actually be in cooperation with Bart Barber on missions when he just did this, he just took a giant dump on you. You got to watch my latest live stream with Berean Babes on disavowing the Conservative Baptist Network, because they have been nowhere on this fight other than Twitter retweeting Megan Basham's article from mid-June. Brad Eubank was an unsuccessful nominee for first vice president of the Southern Baptist Convention and is also a sex abuse survivor. Bart Barber definitely wanted him or someone like him in that having that experience on the task force, which was smart. It would be good to have that perspective. He is the pastor of Petal First Baptist Church in Petal, Mississippi. To his credit, he's not a social media personality, although I do believe he does have a Twitter, but he definitely doesn't seem like one of the worst people on this list. So let's move on to John Nelson. Here we got one of the bad ones, just because this is a Branch Covidian, and I mean it. Like, this guy is a hardcore Branch Covidian. This is a Branch Covidian church. Like, look at this. You think this is from last year? You think this is from 2020? It's not. It's from 2022. It's from last month. They had a service They canceled a Sunday service because of a COVID outbreak. Like, this is a loser mentality church. This is not a church that just anyone who takes Christianity serious can go to, because they're still peddling the lies from the CDC. They're still peddling the branch Covidianism. And they even have an article on their website. So this page has to do with, like, they had an outbreak of, like, a non-threatening variant. And then they have this, churches don't divide over coronavirus and whatever. It's by Brett McCracken, who we featured in yesterday's video on the Gospel Coalition, because Brett McCracken is a Gospel Coalition article. And this is such a terrible piece about how we should embrace lies, because embracing lies is loving our neighbor. But that's what the Southern Baptist Convention has come to, is people like that. So this is a very liberal church, branch Covidian church. And guess what? If you're still wrong on COVID, it's because you're woke. It's because you're a liberal. It's because you're in part of that 50% of the Democrats that want to hold on to this issue forever. So then we got Jarrett Stevens. And the story about Jarrett Stevens is he's North American Mission Board, which ties him to Kevin Ezell, the Phantom Menace of the Southern Baptist Convention. Kevin Ezell is a Phantom Menace. He has the Force. And he's been using it. He's been playing Kingmaker in the Southern Baptist Convention for a number of years. J.D. Greer, Ed Litton, Bart Barber, all Kevin Ezell's homeboys and pawns to maintain power and control of the finances of the Southern Baptist Convention. It's good for him, and I'm being not positive here, that he has a member on the committee. Gregory Wills is the dean of the School of Theology for Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. This makes him a friend of Adam Greenway. His Twitter feed is about 50% retweeting Adam Greenway. So what would you call someone that spends 50% of their time on social media retweeting one person? A simp? Perhaps. So, again, simping ain't easy. But in the Southern Baptist Convention, it certainly is necessary. Gregory Wills is part of the Adam Greenway band, I would imagine, because of his fondness for Adam Greenway. Adam Greenway is all about firing people and non-disclosure agreements, which would make someone from that toxic work environment an ideal person to address the issues of reforms for covering up sex abuse. The irony is overwhelming. And then lastly, we have two names. These are the names where there's the least amount of public information about, and that is Cindy Lott and Melissa Bowen. Both are listed as members of their respective churches. Lott's church can be found, but there's very little that we can ascertain from that church. There's not a whole lot that we can really understand from that church, whether they're liberal, whether they're conservative. They kind of look conservative, but you never know. Melissa Bowen's church is in Alabama. Peyton Hill is their pastor. He seems to be very much an Al Mohler type. And, again, I'm just going through social media. He has an educational background, I believe, with Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary during a very pivotal but highly concerning time within the history of Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary, which makes him questionable. But he has also affirmatively quote-tweeted woke preacher clips, which I don't think liberals would do. So if I had to guess who the conservatives, who probably won't put up any fight on this committee I would say Melissa Bowen, Cindy Lott, and Brad Eubank. Those would be your three possibly reasonable voices on this committee. Everyone else is going to go with the company. They are company people. Or woke. So This has been our exploration of the latest drama within the SBC. I think it was pretty in-depth, certainly more in-depth than anyone has gone thus far. Got to give credit to my co-author on this, who actually started the article, and I just did editing. Anthony, who's been on the live streams. So you definitely want to catch the live stream so you can see the personalities that interact with Team Evangelical Dark Web. So, otherwise, like this video to help out those YouTube algorithms and subscribe to the channel. That's the least you can do. Otherwise, if you really like us, support us over at evangelicaldarkweb.org. We have a Patreon-like system you can support for as little as $5 a month. We built our own Patreon so we can't get canceled, so definitely support independent Christian news gathering and commentary sources. Thank you. Have a blessed day. I will catch you on the next one.